If you asked me how I got into the field of conflict resolution, I guess I'd say it was because I wanted to see the world. I'm not sure how I got here, but I always had this desire to work in other cultures and do work with people in lots of places. I was a foreign exchange student when I was in high school. I lived in Argentina for a year. And I think what I've tried to do is recreate that experience over and over again. I became a Spanish teacher. That was my first job. And it was with 7th and 8th graders. And I did that for a while and realized that what I really wanted to do was get into adult learning because I couldn't handle junior high learning. So I got my degree at Columbia in adult learning. And shortly after that, I started working in corporate training, doing different kinds of workshops. And I took a course on collaborative negotiation and found that it was something that really sort of spoke to me. And I started teaching that within my client base. I'd started my own company by that time. And I began going to Asia, working in Japan and Hong Kong and Singapore, teaching different kinds of leadership courses. Negotiation skills was a big part of it. And I began to realize that there was a need to get people together. Japanese working with Chinese, Germans working with Americans, and began to see the potential of communication and negotiation. At the same time, back in New York, I took a course in mediation training. So I became a mediator. I did mediation in the Bronx. And eventually I got a job at the ICCCR, which is in Teachers College, is the Conflict Resolution Center. I started teaching there and then continued my consulting work. And what I find is a lot of my work now is focused on helping people from different backgrounds work together effectively. For example, I've worked with the Asian Development Bank in Manila, trained their leadership team on leading diverse teams, and then their staff members on communicating effectively in a multicultural organization. And that involves really understanding differences and then being able to negotiate them in a constructive way. Because when people talk about diverse teams, they say that they can achieve so much more than a non-diverse team. The one thing that's important, though, is that the team needs to be well managed, well led, and each team member needs to be able to be an effective communicator. I've also worked a lot with the United Nations in quite a few different countries. I guess I've worked in 35 countries now on different projects related to communication and conflict resolution. And as I'm finding that there's an element of conflict resolution in everything I'm doing now, because there's always difference and we always need to find ways to handle it effectively. I've worked with the NECR program now for about 10 years. And if you ask me what do I want to do now, I would say I'm doing the work that I want to do, because I find it really exciting to work with people who are interested in the field of conflict resolution, and this involves really not only learning the skills of conflict resolution, it also means taking a deep dive into yourself, your own self-awareness. And so I find it really exciting to work with people on really understanding themselves and kind of what they bring to a conflict and how they can influence it in a constructive way. In the field of adult learning, we talk about transformation, that's one of the goals of learning, and that is to really see yourself in a new way and see different perspectives. And so when I'm working with people, and I guess in the most satisfying times, is when I'm helping people sort of transform their point of view. And this can happen in mediation when two neighbors are in a very serious fight over noise or whatever. When they begin to see each other's perspectives and the impact that they're having on each other, and they realize that there are new ways of relating to each other and communicating, that's what I find most exciting. And in a similar way, in the classes that I'm teaching, whether it's a workshop in China or a workshop in Austria where I go often, or in Bangkok where I also work quite a bit, it's people sort of taking a look at themselves, taking a look at the people that they're working with, and thinking of sort of new ways of connecting and communicating so that they can work in an environment that's more constructive. Conflict resolution for me is the theme that pulls together all of the different things that I'm interested in. Interested in international work, interested in diversity and different ways of seeing the world, and finally kind of pulling it together through the methodology of conflict resolution. And as I say, that's why I find the NECR program such an exciting one, because those are the topics that we're working with.